Nav, right. I'm going to introduce you to this lovely bunch of people. This is Nav, short for Naveen, and Nav runs various successful gospel choirs and has helped with the Brandenburg Festival over the years, looking after the fringe events, which are the smaller and less classical events. Nav, is that a fair summation of your of well, it's a very underselling you because you've got many talents, but is that a good start?
I mean, we didn't include criminal and fool and all the rest of it. Yeah, but thanks.
Okay, so it's rather nice, Nav, if I can ask you what you've been up to in this dreadful lockdown period. How has it affected you and your choirs?
So, I guess on a weekly basis, I ran 5 choirs running into this. But my school choir and my prison work and my gospel choir for a while all went away. So obviously the prison goes away, we can't get in, and the school choir just disappeared because the kids weren't at school. And my gospel choir, I actually took a sabbatical from at the beginning of the year. So I was lucky in that the biggest of my commitments, because that's 3 rehearsals a week and 160 people. I had stepped away from that for a little bit. Um, and so that just happened to happen at the end of January, and then this all happened in March. But my other 2 choirs, my cancer choir and my youth choir, they continued. We went straight to Zoom immediately, and we've just gone on. And actually, for me, the Zoom thing has been a brilliant maneuver and a lifesaver. Not just a lifesaver, but it's been mind expanding in that my cancer choir, of course, all of us think, what is a choir? Well, it's everybody gets in a room and sings together. But so your design automatically would be book a room, have a space, everybody travels there, we sing for 2 to 3 hours, then everybody goes home. But what if your organization dealt nationally and had people who couldn't travel to London to be in the choir, and also some days just couldn't really travel anywhere or want to? What if you went on Zoom and you just did a fun session for an hour every week? Maybe people could join nationally, and the choir has doubled in size and kept growing. So actually, the cancer choir has really benefited from this time, and the organization and their reach to their members has, the impact's been great. So that's been really exciting. Should I talk about other things I'm doing?
Definitely.
Okay.
We want to know. We'll
Well,
learn all about you.
well, so interestingly, for all of us who have done music exams, I started working at the beginning of March with the new and fifth Ofqual regulated music board in the UK. So the Music Teachers Board. They're now at the table with grades 1 to 8 exams, 425 instruments and voice. And whilst every other board was struggling during this time, delivering face-to-face exams, MTB's model is very different. So they just cruise straight through this time and have been a bit of a lifeline for lots of students because they'd done all the work, but they couldn't have an exam to go to. MTB takes the GCSE model and says, you, the teacher, in situ, wherever you are with the student, on whatever day the student is ready, record an exam in audio, send it to us, we give it to a specialist examiner, and then you get your results back in 2 weeks. So if you're a trumpet player, a trumpeter looks at your examiner, and your teacher could have just led the exam over webcam because they can't come to your house and you can't go to school and you can't go to their house, or you can't, you're an adult learner. So MTB provides this amazing now different version of how to do exams in a much more accessible way. And I've loved it because I went to the Music Drama Education Expo at the beginning of March, met them, was very excited by the model, having been a piano teacher for 26 years. And anyway, so that's been exciting. That's one part of my life. And then the other bit has been running MD Brunch, which musical director brunch, a very comfortable place for musical directors, which is a very lonely profession, to get together, skills exchange, share, talk, discover all the woes, joys, and pains that we've all kind of thought we were facing on our own, but actually we're facing it together, and now find tricks and ways to get through it. So MD Brunch has run for about 2.5 years, ad hoc, whenever I had a minute, but I put down the gospel choir this year to take a little bit more time to refocus myself, and I grew MD Brunch this year with a purpose. So now we've got a Facebook group of 350 something directors, ranging from Amy Bevington at ABCD through to Juliet Russell at The Voice and stuff, and it's just been amazing. But the sharing during this time, because as we all know, we're missing our choirs and how to do it and what do we need. We are now...
Nav, can I just interrupt you for a minute? Because anytime anyone coughs, they get in to speak of you. So I'm going to mute everyone. You'll have to unmute yourself. My fault, didn't quite get the protocol right.
Don't worry, I'm there.
Much better.
So anyway, so MD Brunch has been flourishing. It's only confusing in my head because I've got MTB and MD Brunch. Sometimes I save things in the wrong folder on my computer, but that's the worst of my life right now, and it's been amazing. So I'm lucky, I think, in that I can say that this pandemic has lost me some friends, but it's been good to me personally and professionally. So yeah.
Great. That's
there's my roundup.
Well, I think there is a classic example of a positive person, because there's enough detritus floating around in the current situation, and there's a lot of really bad things that we don't have the leverage to change from our limited position, but you can change your outlook, and you can find positive ways of going forward.
Very much so.
Bravo you, bravo. So that's pretty much what this most of this gang is about. This Camino project, which is very exciting. I
see very many happy smiley faces, so I'm very much reassured.
Correct. Yeah. It is trying to add as many pluses as we can to the limited experience that you can get by singing via Zoom. We know it doesn't work like proper singing, but we can add lots of other things around it. So that's been the same process, to try and be imaginative, be creative, and be positive.
Well, I'd like to say that I haven't seen anybody else really do anything quite like you're doing with this. Because the MD Brunch is a 350 strong Facebook group of people doing choir stuff. Loads of virtual videos showing up, lots of ways to do it, lots of people talking about that, but nobody has taken it to the depth of play that you have. And I'm really excited by this project. When I saw it, I just thought, yeah, of course Bob would come up with something like this. Of course. It's brilliant. I mean, it's a whole other level of joy, because I got quite annoyed with somebody on Twitter, a quite powerful choral director, who said, amateur choir directors, please would you refrain from all of these virtual choirs because you're overloading your singers and they don't want to do them. And I took a little gumption to this, because I'm in about 9 different MD groups on Facebook for lots of different choir directors, from ABCD through to Natural Voice Network, and I don't see this person in any of those groups. So I was like, where are you getting this great bit of wisdom from? But virtual choiring has its limitations, of course it does, but it's about what we can do with making this environment useful to us and exciting. There's so much more to studying music, and there's so much more to doing community. So I was quite annoyed at that person. I told them so, but you have done this. It's magical.
Well, I think that's very kind. I think we're certainly having a good time along the way, and hopefully it's great. There's a comment in the chat from Roz, who is sort of reiterating your point, that she lives as she describes, in the sticks, so she's not near anyone. So this is a way that she can interact with other people, like-minded people, which she wouldn't have the opportunity of on a day-to-day basis. Anyway,
I think that there are lots of larger scale project planners and producers who are now discussing the fact that the way that they're now going to do projects is going to change from now on, because this is our way to reach so many more people in a project where, yes, you can have 200 singers turn up live in one room, but of course we can include everybody else through some kind of virtual connection. And I think it's mainly because the business world was already all over this. They had their Hong Kong office talking to their LA office. They lived like this, and they totally understood. Us musicians were too busy working on our craft and reading dots, and so I didn't know what Zoom was, and why would I? But now that I do, I see how I can actually rope in singers and rehearsals where access or travel time kills a project, whereas actually we can overcome all those little hurdles. So welcome to the singing project for us.
Okay, so I'm going to now throw the real curveball at you. So this is the way the project works, is that we have one central piece which we study, we look at, we practice, we record, and so on. And at the moment, we're on step 3 of the journey. It's a journey, it's a pilgrimage, and this is a piece by Bruckner Locus, which I sent you 2 days ago. Now, given that you are incredibly busy in your gospel and jazz world, had you ever come across this piece before?
I'm going to make an admission, singers. Um, I grew up as a pianist, so I spent my time on Rachmaninoff and Liszt. That's how I grew up. So I love the world of classical music. But whilst we were at the music school and somewhat wayward children, we used to laugh at the singers because we just thought, well, you just open your mouth and the sound falls out. Really, how difficult is that? So that was awful. So I have never studied classical vocal repertory, and the canon is not in my head. So no, I have not come across this work before.
Well, that's great, because there are in this group that you see before you, there are some very experienced singers who've sung it loads, and that no, don't, no, the freshness. So you open the page, you looked at it, you maybe listened to a recording or two. What? Tell us your thoughts. Share your thoughts.
Well, firstly, it is a gorgeous sound. As Bob asked me before, so what did you think of the piece? And I said, I love it. Um, so I'll be honest, I listened to only one recording on loop for the whole of today. So that was the Tenebrae version. And of course I went there just to be safe and get it right. Well done, Tenebrae. I, I, I can get into what I think about the technicalities and why I would approach this piece, but in short, I think such a gorgeous and accessible piece. The one review I read that shocked me a little was, oh, it's not a very complicated piece, so any choir can really approach it. I feel like the person who wrote that really doesn't care about their music. I think anything you sing is as complex as it can come because you have to care about every syllable and every sound you make. So everything is a labor of love. So simple or not, you take the time to get the effort and the music right. So I enjoyed listening to this greatly because I was listening to Tenebrae and they smashed every bit of it. Do you want me to talk about what I think about the bits and pieces?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Because it's shining a light from a different angle.
sure. So let's say that I'm a choir director that works predominantly with amateur choirs. I'm in prison, and the prisoners love singing choral music, which is just, so we'll be singing My Shot from Hamilton, My Way by Frank Sinatra, and then a Requiem section or a Gloria from somewhere. And they, equally get excited by all of it. So I live in a world where I want to do music with people who don't consider themselves musicians or never thought they could. And I want to bring them to the table as fast as I can. What I loved about this piece, I think, is that this would not scare me to take to the table with a group like that. But I think what I said earlier would go to beauty takes patience. And the danger for me with this is keeping tempo. It's People don't like keeping a really graceful tempo over time. There's just a temptation to get bored and rush. And I could see that becoming a real issue with a conductor who isn't very confident of themselves to stay in the tempo that they wanted it at and maintain it. So I'm not blaming the singers on that. I think that would be, as I'm speaking all of this as a conductor in my mind coming to a room for a rehearsal for this. So I would be very wary of myself in terms of my tempo. One set, it was gorgeous, and Tenebrae obviously keep those very well, but I can totally see us running away with stuff like that. And I think this piece is great because it lives in its quiet articulation. Um, there's great dynamic variation in the score, but you really need to control your quiet moments in such a short piece where it doesn't take a long time to build up to one big climax and then it runs away. There are several peaks as it goes through, so you need the patience to have that variation, but also you need to really enjoy living in those quiet ensemble moments with those 3 parts on top of the moving bass. I really enjoyed thinking about how that was going to cause some rehearsal ruckus. And then I think the other bit is that middle section. Gosh, that's just an intonation minefield, I think. Um, See, I'm not the only criminal in the room. There are other people who are stealing laptops. I just, all those close harmonies, just seconds stepping away, all the suspensions as they go through that middle section. I was just thinking, wow, that's going to be fun. I wonder how much pitch drift we would have when we come out the other side of that middle section. So A, B, A, the A section initially, gorgeous. B section, interesting. A section, when we come back to it, oh, tone lower, I bet. But anyway, so, that would be a thing to watch out for. And I also think this would be, if somebody did have the cheek to say, oh, it's a simple piece of music, then I think this would be a great piece with this kind of very simple kind of dominant cycles. So chord 1 to chord 5, and then changing key, and then chord 5 again, and then changing key. I think this would be a great place to not have scary classical music, inaccessible, depthy, too far classical music, to really think about the culture of light and shade in every phrase. There aren't that many phrases in this piece. There aren't that many bits to learn. And once you're doing them, you really have to think about what you're doing in each phrase. And I really enjoyed listening to turnarounds when they peaked at a point in a phrase and within a word used the second syllable to pull the sound away. That was gorgeous. And I just thought, this is a really great exercise in light and shade. So, I think those are my points, thinking about the piece from top to bottom just now. I have never conducted it, so I would learn a lot more, I think, from actually singing it in a room with a group.
Well, thank you. I know. I think it's interesting because everybody looks at the complex mixture from a different angle, and different directors value different aspects as most important for them. We had a choral conductor, Christopher Herrick, who is a very old and distinguished organist stroke conductor, older generation. He studied conducting with Adrian Bolt. So
Right.
this is history coming down to us. And when I asked him about it, he said that the most important thing, he said, are you going to conduct it in 2 or 4?
Wow.
And for him, that's the starting point. And so how you balance the elements of harmony and so on. Now a lot depends on the speed. Different you can vary the speed hugely, and so that would change that.
I feel like 2 would take a lot of control and a lot of self-confidence.
Okay, well, I'll now confess to you that when as one of the things that we've developed here is that we have a lot of learning aids for people, and it's using MIDI mostly, and we also have a lot of recording aids. So my plan is to conduct in 2 with a click of 4.
Well, there you go.
Now this is cheating.
I mean, you could call it that.
But what it is, there are negatives of doing things in the virtual world. So let's take advantage of the positives. Interestingly, what you instantly picked up on is the danger in the middle section of going flat.
Yeah.
Because it's descending semitones, and we know that is always a go flat. So what we also have in the mix that people listen to when both the practicing sessions and the recording aids is that, so we have the MIDI voices. We also have a piano ping on the first beat of each bar.
Nice. Okay.
Because it's on headphones, so you can't do this in a concert. And in a concert, you're absolutely right. It's likely to go flat. But we're cheating again. So we cheat with rhythm and we cheat with pitch. I mean,
you say cheat with pitch, but I think there's 2 things there. There's one. Allegedly, a group of professionals has spent a very long time anchoring a very strong set of pitches in their heads. So it's like a table tennis player who can absolutely reach the corner of the table, or a badminton player who knows exactly the height of the net wherever they are on the court. That takes a long, long time, and they've actually got an A. They've just hundreds of thousands of hours of get that A in my head. But then I think there's the other version of that, which is that accompaniments would have given you anchoring, and we get a bit lazy when we don't have accompaniment to take that inner responsibility for our pitch sense. So I don't think it's really cheating. I think they've got there is a version of an aid, and then having a ping in your ear is just re-centralizing tone. And why shouldn't you?
No, I mean, I'm being ironic when I'm saying cheating, obviously, but it is taking advantage of the environment we're in to offset the disadvantages. So, but it's fantastic. I'm delighted. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. It's very illuminating, like shining the light on. So, I'm going to go onto a gallery view here and see if anybody has any questions.
Well, I'm so sorry, but were we just for my sake?
Yeah.
How's the step of the journey going, and how has the journey been going so far? Tell me about the Camino, because I haven't been on any of the steps. Sorry.
Well, you are slightly too busy, but that's okay. But you're very welcome to join in anytime. Yeah, it's fundamentally a 4-week step, focused on one piece. And what I don't think you actually know this, but did you know I had COVID?
When we talked a little while ago, you told me, but I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time.
So when I was getting better and all these online projects were starting, I started to look at them on my laptop and I thought that's not very exciting. What's going on? That's not special. And Matt Buswell, the baritone, was ringing me up about every fortnight, saying, "Come on, let's do something exciting." And I kept on saying, "No." Until we got to the point where we said, "Yeah." And so we discussed this idea of the journey, the pilgrimage, and we got Mark, our marketing guy, was involved, and so there were 3 of us, and we worked 12-hour days for a week. So we went from concept to launch in 8 days.
Amazing.
And we started with step 1, and it was okay. We did Ave Verum Corpus. So it's basically 4 weeks on, 1 week off, so we can recover, because Matt does all the technical work. He does all the video stuff as well, and the editing and audio editing and so on. Then step 2 was a movement from the Foro Requiem. Another week off. Now we're just getting going on the Bruckner, and very soon we put out a shortlist for people to vote on as to what the repertoire might be for step 4. So we don't, until that happens, we don't know. And on it goes.
So people actually get a little bit of input on choosing the vehicle to get to the next stage.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the vehicle is only the vehicle. It's only the sort of middle core. There's loads of other things surrounding it, of activities that go on, like conversations with conductors and lots of smiley faces. And all the comments as people were coming in tonight were saying, "Oh, hi. Ah, yes, I know you because I met you in the wine. We have a wine bar, by the way, as well." So yeah, and so on. It was great.